Hello folks, welcome to another Walkie Talkie. What a beautiful sunset slash vista of Glasgow and Renfrewshire. I'm pretty blessed to actually have this, actually just within about maybe 5 minutes walk of here. I don't want to say any more, I might get doxed long. Right, so let's talk about employment since I last talked about employment. And I'm not talking about my own experiences, I'm talking about experiences I've seen on the internet. Right? HR. You know, if you think about it, HR, you'd think HR would be some kind of service within your workplace where you can actually go and ask, you know, questions and maybe deal with things like, you know, updating your pay details, updating your house details, your surname, maybe your gender, whatever. No, not really. HR departments are usually quite small per company. They're not like big or, you know, in a proportionate size to the staff ratio. I mean, I've got one example, right? HR is formed of 2 people and the staff base is over 30,000. That's absolutely nuts. I do agree, yes. And how do they deal with the 30-odd thousand with only 2 HR staff? HR software, that's how you deal with it. And to be honest, you know, nothing makes better than a face-to-face contact, especially if you're maybe coming to a sensitive matter or a matter that has an emotional basis, right? But, you know, whatever. You know, I mean, I've got 2 examples of HR horror stories, and that was delved from Reddit. Reddit is an absolute piss wet, literal sponge of examples. So I'm just weakening a few from my small little mind to process and articulate over the camera to you, right? So there's this lady and she's been having issues with the Works t-shirts, and it turns out everyone's been having the same issue with the Works t-shirts. They are poor construction and the actual physicality completely fails numerous times over with people, and you know, she's had about 6 of these t-shirts and they all fail, and you're not allowed to even bring in your own black t-shirt from work. So, you know, she decided to talk to HR because her level boss, not particularly interested really, can't do anything. And 4 days later, there's an envelope attached to her locker. Guess what it is? P45. It's like, what the fuck is that? And then there's another example. Person that has their own adapted Henry because of disabilities. I didn't realise you could get an adapted Henry, but actually you can. And someone keeps using her Hoover. She spoke to them about 3 times and she's had to speak to HR. Well, 3 days later, she had a letter in the post, P45. And it wasn't a usual P45 where you've been paid off or you've moved to a different company or something like it. It cited general misconduct. So when she went to Universal Credit, she didn't get her duly received money for 15 calendar weeks. Remember, new Universal Credit, if you come to them because you have performed misconduct and you hand the P45 over, they'll read it and go, nah, we can't pay you for 15 weeks. So that was a horror show. In that amount of time, she had it there. She had to go and stay with family and friends. I mean, that's a person that needed adapted to her because of disability, whatever it was, you know, and obviously she got sacked because she wrote to HR asking for a little assistance. HR should be the point of assistance service, you know, with anything, as I mentioned about, like, you know, pay stuff, and there should be some kind of service for people that are having a bit of an issue at work, get a bit of advice, because works don't have welfare rights. But anyway, yeah, workplaces just treat their employees like shit, and then perform things like constructive dismissal, workplace harassment, bullying, sexual harassment, physical intimidation, just to get a person out the door without having to give him anything like a severance payment. So that brings us quite neatly on to what is it called? Constructive dismissal. And as I said there, it's basically a anger-filled, hate-filled workplace environment, making the employee leave and not giving them things like severance payment, pension, you name it. It's happening all too fucking often, honestly. And I've got one really good example that, again, from Reddit, not from anything to do with me. So yeah, a person was due into her work at, say, 7 o'clock PM. The area the workplace is in is a very busy place. The roads are a mess, right? And she comes in 6 minutes late one day, 8 minutes late the next day, and 7 minutes late the day following. So that's an average tardiness of 7 minutes. It's not really that much, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things. But anywho, the boss themselves is a Karen prick, or a prickette, and brings the person in for a rather demeaning, embarrassing and upsetting 20-minute showdown, shouting at the person and the lady, you know. And the person also goes to realise that she's been watched from, like, corners and alcoves and, like, and at first she was thinking, nah, I must be paranoid or something. And her colleague goes, he's not normally based here. What's he doing sneaking behind bookcases? And that's when she tells he what's been going on, and it goes on for about a week. It just becomes more and more obvious, and then she gets a letter through the post saying she'd been referred to HR, and HR had approved a a probation period. But every time she goes and asks, when does the probation end, so I can know whether I can go start a job search or not. They just go, don't know, oh, we'll see. Right? And that leaves her confused. When does the probation end? When does it start? Can she actually go and look around for other jobs? And it's truly pitiful, absolutely wrong. I've got a few friends who are in management roles, and I've actually asked, and apparently that probation is illegal. It should be clearly indicated when it starts, when it stops, how long it's going to run. It should also be followed up by probation review meetings, in which this case there's been no such thing. It's absolutely it's horrendous. We're just mindless flesh robots, really, for companies. I haven't went through any of these things myself, but I'm very aware what a company can do and screw you up. And it's sad because people go to work and they actually, they try and burst their gut. Right, it's not like people just turn up at work, fuck about, have a laugh and go, haha, I'm getting paid at the end of the week, kind of thing. People actually go in, bust their gut, and they try their best, but it seems our best isn't good enough. And it's appalling. Why are people joining unions at the click of a thumb? This is the reason. Why are people writing on Facebook and shit like that, going, oh, I hate my effing boss, oh, my boss is a cunt. This is some of the reasons. And see, if bosses and companies treated their staff in a less hostile way, people would be a bit more loyal. But then again, people are already pretty loyal. But this would make things even better. People would feel less like throwing a sickie, to meet our pals at a boozer. But whatever. If that's what companies want to do with their staff, then fucking fair play to them. But I know one thing: workplaces are not adult creches. Workplaces are not social centres. Bosses are not CPNs or other mental health team members. Bosses are not your friends. Much the same way police are not your friends. And if you think either are your friends, then you've got to give yourself a hard slap in the face. None are your friends. And although none are your friends, they shouldn't be treating you in such a way that it's devaluative and it makes you feel at edge. I know things happen and stuff. I certainly do know that things do happen, but companies shouldn't treat their staff like mud and follow them round their daily duties. Stuff like that, endless probations, sacking because somebody comes in a Bart Simpson t-shirt.
Excuse me?
Hello?
Do you want lemonade to start the tea?
Maybe. I'll maybe head back round. Right, thanks anyway. That was a kind offer. Somebody actually offered me lemonade for 50p. I'm going to have to check my wallet in a minute actually. But yeah, just sort of general wrap up. If bosses and companies treat our people appropriately, a bit of kindness doesn't go too far, right? Then staff will respect. While staff can giggle on about respect and stuff like that, right? But they've got to respect the staff in turn. In fact, you know, even the workers are actually just trying to respect and trying to work as hard as possible, only to be treated hostilely and threatened with demotions, etc. When they're actually already doing a hard enough job. It's just totally wrong. It makes me sick. This walkie-talkie is meant to be short and sharp, but you know, a topic like this can expand into tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. But anyway, I think I've covered everything. Anyone that isn't on the union but it works endorse unionship, check into it. So I think I've pretty much covered everything. Well, I'll catch you later. Have a great weekend.